welcome to Across the Desk. This week's episode, we're going to talk about something Kevin Stitt is trying to do. So a little background, we've been actually voting for our Secretary of Education for quite some time now because the forefathers of Oklahoma seemed that it might be a good idea that the citizens actually have a say in who their Secretary of Education is in charge of teaching our children. Well, Kevin Stitt disagrees with that. And he says, this will give you more room to, make this a great state. But I actually see where this could be a really big problem, because what they're going to end up doing is, and I'm almost positive, because they're not going to tell you this, but this is what it looks like. They're going to be able to sell this seat. And as you've seen in a previous episode, Republicans love selling things, especially themselves. And one of the things they're going to do with this is they're going to sell this seat to the highest bidder. And I'll almost guarantee that highest bidder will be somebody in charge of a charter school like Epic. They have the money, they will buy that seat like you won't believe. And maybe Kevin Stitt will come out and say, well, I'm a billionaire, I don't need the money, why would I sell that seat? Well, it's not so much him as maybe his predecessor would do it. And some predecessor would probably do that, and that would be a wide open gap for this thing to be abused. And that's almost guarantee that's what this is intended to do. This is Kevin Stitt going to abuse the system of Oklahoma by putting in his crony, putting in his capitalist crony, putting in his moneyed interest into there. Because I'm going to tell you something about Kevin Stitt, the Oklahoma Republican Party, and most conservatives that I know of, they really don't like the word democracy, if you've noticed. Democracy, they like to get rid of it. Even though we like to think of ourselves as a democratic republic, they really don't like that. We are a republic, but a lot of things in our system is democratically done. We democratically elect our senators and our representatives. We democratically elect our governor. And the list goes down. Mayor, everybody else is democratically done. There's no real republic way of voting in a governor or a representative. Now, what we do here is that makes us kind of a democratic republic, right? We democratically elect our representatives, and then republicly they go to the legislatures and represent us. So we have a republic that's democratically elected. Well, Republicans really don't like that. And I'm going to tell you what they really like. When you see someone like, for instance, Mullen. He was out a few years ago at a town hall and said, hey, I don't work for you people. I work for the moneyed interest in my district. That's me. I make millions of dollars. I pay the taxes, so I'm working for me. I work for the people that pay the tax money, right? So he's coming right out and saying, hey, I don't represent everybody. I represent the moneyed interest in my district. That's who I represent. That's his philosophy. That's how he wants to politically run things, and that's okay. If he wants to do that, but let's be honest about what that is. There's a word, it's called plutocratic. It means, in Greek, it's a word that takes two words, and one is plutus, which is many, and ocracy, which is a type of government. So basically, this is a government by the wealthy. It's called a plutocracy. It's plutocratic. That means the wealthy control the government. And basically that's what we have here. We have Republicans that want to put in place not a democratic republic, but a plutocratic republic. That's actually what they're for. It's actually what they do. And you can see it through Scott Pruitt, you can see it through Kevin Stitt, you can see it through Mary Fallon, you can see it in a whole bunch of other host of people who've been bought off. And you know that they've been bought off because, like, when someone like, a national figure like Lindsey Graham, when he came out at the beginning, he was so mad at Trump. Trump gave out his phone number. He put out all these ads against Trump, to how horrible of a guy he is. And then later now he's like, Trump's best thing since sliced bread. I don't know what you're talking about. Well, I know what I'm talking about. And it's basically, you took the money because you're a Republican, and that's what you guys do. You take the money, and then, that's what I'm going to be for, because this is the moneyed interest. As I said in another show, It's the Republican mantra, he who has the gold makes the rules, which is a total plutocratic way to look at things, right? So if you got the money, you get to control how the government runs. And that's how these guys believe. Believe me, it is definitely how they believe. They want a plutocratic, controlled republic. So they want the wealthy interest, the money interest, to be in charge because they genuinely believe, if you know anything about trickle-down economics, that anything that's good for the wealthy individuals is good for everybody else down below. Because, when it trickles down to you, you're going to get yours in a trickle. And I don't know what kind of trickle they're talking about, but, it's almost like, hey, open wide, here you go, here's some trickle. And that's pretty much their whole philosophy on how they want to run things. I mean, this is their ideology. This is their fantasyland world of perfection, is a plutocratic republic ran by wealthy people where anybody that makes less than $70,000 a year really doesn't have much of a say. We might listen to you a little because you are the people, but really, it's these other guys we want in charge. We're not going to do anything to upset those apple carts over there because they're the job creators, right? They're the ones providing all the jobs for everybody, which, in this state is kind of curious when you have one industry providing all the jobs. Why is that one industry providing all the jobs? Well, I'll tell you. They have a lot of money, and then they go and buy off the legislatures and the governors, and then they make sure that their industry is the only egg in Oklahoma's basket. That's why renewables, we started doing the wind farm thing, and we got there, and then they put in places to kind of curb that now. There's away the subsidy, so it's not a real big issue now. And anything else like solar farms. Now you see what they did. That one guy from Edmond who put in a law in place a few years back to tax people who have solar panels on their house. This is it's such a cynical law, and basically it's designed to protect the oil and gas industry here in Oklahoma. Because see, we really don't want any other industry in the state. There was one time, aerospace was really big, and agriculture. Agriculture is still like number 2, but it used to be number 1. Well, no, not anymore. Oil and gas is, and mostly it's gas. It's not really oil that we have here. It's a lot of natural gas. So that's the big industry, and that's the industry that they're trying to protect. And they're trying to protect it by making sure it's the only egg in the basket, which is kind of cynical when you look at it, because then later they come back and say, well, we're the only egg in your basket. You can't upset those guys. They provide all the jobs. Well, why don't we diversify a little? Well, we can't diversify because we have a bunch of people in power who are plutocrats. That's what they believe. They believe that the guy with all the money should make the rules. And who has all the money? Well, that would be the oil industry and gas industry. And why do they have all the money? Well, because they made sure that they're the only industry in town. So you see how this circle kind of gets going, right? I mean, it's just a big, huge circular type of argument that they're dealing with, and that they put into place. This was by design. It's not meant to help people out. It's not help to further the goals of Oklahoma. It's designed to help just a few individuals at the top of the income chain, at the wealth chain, help those guys out, because these guys on the right, they genuinely believe that if we give Mr. Ham and Mr. Nichols all the breaks and even more money, well, that's just going to be good for the rest of everybody else in this state. And it really isn't. They really haven't done much. I mean, he goes, I'm a philanthropist. I do a lot of stuff. But when you look at the percentage of wealth these guys are bringing in, it's barely 0.1% of what they're hauling in as revenue, as far as what they do in charitable giving. It's really just a drop in the bucket to what they're doing. But they can manipulate that, and then they can con you to believe that, this is a bunch of money. Because hey man, it might be a bunch of money if they're making billions of dollars. 10%. A 0.1% of what they bring in might be a lot of money, but really it's 0.1% of what they're bringing in because they've gamed the system that way. And this is just, it's just a whitewash on a fence. That's all they're doing when they do stuff like that, because they're trying to hide the fact that they're plutocrats. I mean, hey man, if you're really proud of this, if you really want to be a plutocratic republic, then you should come out and champion that. You should be able to come out and defend being a plutocratic republic instead of a democratic one, which they won't do, because a lot of people in this state, they aren't rich. 80%, maybe even 90% of the people in here, they live, below what a medium middle class income would be. So it doesn't pertain to those people. So they're cutting out a lot of people, and they're doing it on purpose. And it goes back to what we're talking about here about this Secretary of State position that, not Secretary of State, but the Secretary of Education position that Governor Stitt, wants to be able to appoint instead of have a democratically elected one, because he doesn't believe in democracy. He believes in plutocratic republic. That's what he believes in. And this all goes back to Kevin Stitt wanting to appoint the Secretary of Education, because he's a plutocrat. And you can see it in his eyes when he says, I want to appoint this, because one, he's pretty power hungry. He wants to consolidate the power. That's one thing. The other thing is, I'm almost positive him and other Republicans, they see dollar signs. That's exactly what they do. And they're going to sell this seat. They're going to sell it to a charter school, and they're going to sell it to someone like Epic. And then that's what we're going to get for a Secretary of Education if we're not careful. And we really need to, if anybody's on my side out there, and I know there are, the people that watch this, man, we really need to make some noise and say, hey, this isn't acceptable. We want to have a say in how our government's run. That's exactly what we want to do. I don't want to elect a governor and then have him appoint people. I want to be able to elect some of the people that he doesn't appoint. I think a governor should appoint some staff. He should be able to appoint a cabinet and other things, but he shouldn't be able to just appoint a Secretary of Education or the Attorney General. He shouldn't be able to do that. And this is what Kevin Stitt wants. He wants to consolidate power. He doesn't believe in democracy. It's just the guy that got elected into our state, and it's what we have to deal with. This is Across the Desk, and I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode and the plutocratic republic that Republicans really want to have. Till next time. Thank you.